Welcome back to Planet Doug, and fair warning, I'm really tired today. I've been really tired this morning and now this afternoon, so I may not be making a lot of sense in this video. Second warning, this is going to be a technical video, quite a technical one, I suppose, as I continue to talk about the Insta360 One X2 camera, which one of my subscribers and a mystery benefactor was kind enough to gift me a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, and I've been learning about it like crazy. And I have a lot of thoughts about this camera that are fresh on my mind, and I thought I'd record my thoughts before any more time passes. So this will be a very technical video, and if that doesn't interest you, you better run for your life. Tune out now, because things are going to get very technical. But before I dive into the tech, I would like to kind of give a shout out and a thanks to many of my subscribers who have sent me such amazing gifts over the past couple of years that I've been here in Mesot. And I just recently had a visitor. One of my subscribers came all the way to Mesot to visit me. He was here for a few days, and he and I hopped on the scooter quite a few of those days, and went roaming around the countryside, visiting a lot of my favorite spots. And then here back in Mesot, we were doing a lot of cafe hopping, checking out all of my favorite coffee shops, as well as some new ones and some places he wanted to check out. And my mystery visitor has left Mesot now, but before he left, he gave me a couple of going away presents, which are pretty amazing, and I thought I'd show them to you. One of them is this, a bottle of Davidoff, sort of premium instant coffee. And yeah, this is the Treasure of Costa Rica kind of coffee. Has a full essay on the side here about how this coffee was made with the finest blends of the best coffee beans that can be found in Costa Rica. So this is a really nice tasting coffee from Davidoff. He actually gave me some little packets of Davidoff instant coffee to see what I thought of it. And it was really good. It tasted better than my usual, bargain basement brands of instant coffee. So as he was getting ready to leave, he picked up a bottle of the best Davidoff you can get. So this is my instant coffee at the moment. Thank you very much for that. And he knows me very well, as many of my subscribers do. Before he left, gave me one of these, a bottle of Johnny Walker Blender's Batch Scotch whiskey. This is kind of funny. Actually, I have a little bit of it going right now, so it's very nice. It is the afternoon, so I'm allowed. That is really, really nice. We were in the store looking at the whiskeys and different things, because he wanted to do something nice for me before he left, and he knew that I really liked a bit of scotch over ice from time to time, and he wanted to get me some scotch. And he was leaning towards, the finer scotches. He wanted to get me Johnny Walker Black or Johnny Walker Blue, the premium blends of Johnny Walker. But I actually prefer Johnny Walker Red. It's the cheaper Johnny Walker, but I like the flavor of the red better than the black and the blue for some reason. I couldn't tell you why exactly, but I've had all three, and each time I go back to the red. Even if I could afford the black and the blue, I would still buy the red. But he didn't want to get me just the basic red, so we compromised. This is the Johnny Walker Red, but the fine Blender's Batch. So this is the premium version of Johnny Walker Red. Very nice, very smooth, and thank you very much for that. So that's the end of the intro to this video. From now on, it's all technical stuff to do with the camera. Fair warning. So there it is. The One X2 from Insta360. So this is a 360 camera. And I've noticed a few comments from people who are a bit like me, I think. People who watched a bit of my videos where I'm rambling about this camera and testing it. And people have said things like, yeah, they always kind of were curious about 360 cameras, but they sort of dismissed them because they didn't really understand them. Or maybe they thought they were a little bit too gimmicky and they didn't quite know what the deal was with these things. And some of the things I've been doing with the camera on my channel have intrigued them, and there's probably a few people out there wondering, it's like, maybe I should get into the 360 camera game myself. And that's kind of my inspiration for shooting this video, to answer the question is, if you are interested in 360 cameras and 360 video, should you get one? And that's kind of the question I'm going to be trying to answer. It's not an easy question to answer because there really is no answer. I mean, if you are interested in cameras and you have enough money to buy one, well, yeah, absolutely, go get one. You know, you'll have a lot of fun with it. But if it's a bit of a tougher decision and you're on a budget and you're wondering, I can only afford one camera, which one should I get? Would you get something like this? And I think that the short answer to that is no, because this is kind of a specialty tool. If you don't have a camera at all, and you're thinking about getting a small, lightweight, you know, sort of action style camera with really good stabilization, I don't think you would look at one of these first. 360 video is a bridge too far, especially for your very first one. I think I would go for something like, you know, a GoPro. I think that's the obvious starting point. But if you already have a GoPro and you're wondering, ooh, maybe one of these would be kind of fun, that's a more interesting question. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this camera from that point of view, mainly for someone who already has a GoPro, maybe already has a mirrorless camera, and do you want to add this to your arsenal? What are the benefits and the pitfalls? So first, what do I like about this camera? Actually, what do I love about this camera? Because I do love it. I'm sort of besotted with this camera. I love it. I like it a lot. And I think what really appeals to me is, well, the main thing, it shoots 360 video. I mean, that's the trump card. I mean, you can go on and on and on about the negatives and say, well, there's this problem and this problem and this problem. But at the end of a list of 50 problems, you come back to the advantage of this camera, and the advantage is it shoots 360 video. You know, and that's such a huge advantage. It kind of trumps all the problems. Because if you take a camera like this and mount it on your scooter as a 360 camera capturing 360 video, it's almost like you've mounted 10 separate cameras on your scooter. You get 10 for one, because you got one camera pointing forward, another one pointing backwards, one to the side, one to the left, one up, one down, one on an angle, one. I mean, it's like you've got 10 cameras all operating at the same time, and in the editing, you can select which perspective you want to use, and then you can use all these very dramatic camera movements where you can move from one perspective to the other, all kinds of things that you just can't do with any other camera. So that's the greatest thing about this camera, is the fact that it's just a 360 camera and shoots 360 video. So that's a pretty no-brainer thing to love about this camera. But on top of that, I love the form factor. It's solid, it's slim, it's like a little Snickers bar of camera goodness. It's so amazing, and the mounting is so simple. It has a 1/4" 20 thread on the bottom. You would generally get one of these Insta360 selfie sticks with it, and of course that just screws into the, whoops, that just screws into the bottom, and you're done. It's as easy as that. You're ready to go. You can be vlogging with it. You can do the whole, you know, extend the selfie stick and get a drone shot. You can get the ground, you know. It's just such a convenient and small package to be working with. I mean, you unscrew that, put this into its case, and there you are. You're ready to go. That's the whole thing you're walking out with, probably with one extra battery, maybe, but that's really all you need. And this fits on my knapsack. I have like a top pocket, which is designed to put just, you know, a pen or a set of keys or something. This fits right in there, and this goes in there with it, and it's like the ultimate compact, small, lightweight camera. I mean, GoPros are supposed to be the kings of portability, but as anyone who owns a GoPro knows, the camera is small and portable, but by the time you're done, fixing up the mounting systems and the adapters and the thumb screws and then the audio jack adapter. I mean, it gets bigger and bigger, and it really is not as portable as you would think. This unit right here, it really is portable, and I love that about it. The lightweight, the simplicity of it, and just how easy and fast it is to work with. And it's a little bit of an illusion, I should point out, because the simplicity of it is so appealing that to use this camera, pretty much all you do is press the record button and you're on your way. The camera turns on with quick capture automatically, starts recording, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about where you're pointing it, you don't have to worry about settings, but that's a bit of an illusion because all the fancy stuff happens afterwards in the editing of the video. So, 10% of the work is just turning on the camera and taking video, and then 90% of the magic, that all happens in the editing program. So that's it's kind of an interesting thing about the 360 cameras. Something else I like about this camera in terms of the form factor and the hardware is the battery. I can't tell you exactly how long the battery lasts, because even those numbers don't make a lot of sense, because it depends what you're talking about. Are you talking about how long the battery lasts for recording time or standby time or when it's sleep time or whatever? I don't really have those numbers. All I can tell you is my feeling and my experience, and in general, as I've been using this camera, the battery just seems to last a long time. I don't have to change the battery very often, and it just seems to get me through a day comfortably. I have 2 batteries. I start the day with both of them charged, and they just go on for a very long time. In fact, 1 battery will get me through an entire day most of the time, and I'm filming a lot. And what's also great about the battery is how easy it is to remove and replace. With a GoPro, of course, I won't talk about it because I'll be here for 20 minutes, talking about all of my adventures and horror stories with GoPro batteries. But with this one, it comes out very easily. 2 clips, you pull them in, battery pops out, it's spring-loaded, battery comes out, you grab your new one, just slap it back in, clicks into place, and you're done. It literally takes seconds to do. And that's such a relief after the hassles of GoPro battery life. So that's another thing that I like about this camera. In terms of the form factor, there are definitely some things that could be improved. If Insta360 asked me, Planet Doug, what can we do to make this camera better for you, the next version? I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm going to dive into those now, starting with the physical form factor. One is that the record button and the power button are not textured in any way. They're really difficult to see, particularly the power button, which you use to turn on the camera, of course. You can barely see it. It's all black, blends into the black of the body, and you can't feel it either. So I'm constantly struggling to find these buttons because they don't stick out in any way. They're not textured in any way. They're the same color as the camera body. And I'm always looking for the power button, and I'm pressing and I'm pressing, and I can't find it. And connected to that is that the power button is really stiff. It has almost no give on it at all. Like, there's no sponginess. There's no feeling that your thumb is on top of a button. So even when you press down, like really hard enough to depress a button on any normal camera, this button doesn't move. So even when I find it and my thumb is on top of the power button and then I press down, it's like, oh, the button's not there because nothing happened. I move, I press there, nothing happened, and I'm moving my thumb around, and finally I have to look at it and go, oh, okay, there's the power button. And then when you press down, you really have to use a lot of force. It's a really stiff power button. And I think that could be textured and raised up a little bit maybe, and it could be made a little bit softer, a little more give to it, so you don't have to use quite as much force, to press it in, to turn it on, or hold it down to turn the camera off. They could also improve the touch screen, I think. The the whole camera is controlled through the touchscreen. It's one of those systems where you swipe down, swipe up, swipe left, swipe right to get, access to different menus and to look at the videos you've shot, go into the settings. You basically swipe on the screen to access all the menu systems. And the touch screen itself is not the best. It's not terrible. It's not a deal breaker, but I do find myself often like hitting the screen once, twice, or swiping twice or 3 times. And then when I get into a menu, I'm trying to swipe out of it again and nothing's working. And I'm doing a lot of swiping and tapping, so it's not as responsive as it could be. And the logic of the menu system kind of eludes me sometimes. Maybe it's early days and I'm just not accustomed to it yet, but if you're familiar with cameras, you kind of know there are certain menu systems on certain brands of cameras that are just known for whatever reason. They've struck lightning with the menu system they designed. It just works. It's intuitive. You just sort of look at it and you know exactly how to get into the menu and where to find the things, and they're organized in a way that makes sense. They're intuitive and logical at the same time. This, for me, is none of those things. I'm always confused when I go into the menu. I never know where I am exactly. For example, you can go into modes, like it has a video mode, photo mode, time-lapse mode, these sorts of things. And then there's another section where you choose different settings for those modes. So you use one menu to change it to video mode. And then there's another area, you go into the video mode and select a bunch of settings. But I'm always confused about where I am. It's like I'm in the section, I think I've switched to video mode, but actually what I've done is gone into the settings menu and I've changed the settings for the video mode. I haven't actually changed the mode itself. Or I've gone into the area where I would normally change the mode from photo to video to time-lapse. And then I'm looking, how do I change the settings? But it's not there, it's somewhere else. I mean, it's, yeah, it could be that I'm not familiar with it yet, but I do find I just get confused about the menu system. I'm constantly looking for things. It's like, okay, where am I exactly and what am I doing? Luckily, I don't do a lot of fancy things. I don't take pictures with this camera. So I have no reason ever to go into photo mode and things like that. I generally just stay in video mode. So, oh, right there. I don't know if you heard that. That is an example of how the whole user interface is not that polished. It needs a lot of work. Right there, the camera screen went to sleep. It went into sleep mode. But whenever it does that, it makes a shutter sound. Like it makes the sound as if it just took a picture. And it makes that picture taking sound often when you change settings and when you go into sleep mode and wake it up and things like that. And to me, it's just a weird choice. I mean, what you want is some kind of a special beep or a tone specific to that, but I don't want a shutter sound like it just took a picture. Because I'm confused every time I hear it. I think, oh, did I hit the button? Am I in photo mode? Why did it take a picture? And then I realized, no, it didn't take a picture. It just made a picture-taking sound. And I have no idea why the designers chose that as the go-to-sleep sound or the sound for other functions. And you're out walking around with this camera, you're in a quiet coffee shop or something, this thing starts clicking as if it's taking a picture. And it's quite loud, and people will turn and look at you. It's like, oh, did you just take my picture? Because they hear a camera shutter sound. I'm like, no, that's one of the menu sounds. I don't know why it makes a shutter sound for the menu, but I'm not taking a picture. I didn't take a picture, It's just a weird choice. And that is sort of an example of how the menu system and the user interface is not as polished as it could be. A lot of the vocabulary is not quite right. The verb tenses in English are a bit weird. They talk about something in the past when it really should be in the present. It's just, there's a weirdness to it overall that you have to get used to. And I don't know how they could improve this very much, considering how small the touch screen is and it's round. It's kind of an unusual interface to begin with. But when you use this screen to review video clips, you know, you swipe right and it opens up the folder where all your video is stored, and you might want to play back one of the videos to see, you know, what you just recorded. It's a bit primitive. You get these very tiny thumbnails. You get a set of 4 of them at a time, and then you have to swipe down to the next screen and you get another 4 of them, and it's just primitive and clunky and unpolished. And to be honest, I just never use it because it's kind of pointless to try and use it. And in a way, I'm not going to hold that against the camera too much, because even when you're playing back the video, you're playing back a 360 video. So you have to kind of scroll around and move around and look to see what it is you recorded. And you don't get a lot of information from that 360 view when you're reviewing it. To be honest, I just wait until I download it to my phone or laptop, and then I can see it in a big screen, and that's when I actually review the videos. But yeah, there is something about that review screen that's a little bit unpolished as well, and not very useful. One last point about sort of the physical nature of the camera has to do with audio. And again, this is something I won't really hold against the camera because it's not designed as a vlogging camera. It's designed to record video, 360 video in fancy, you know, cinematography and fancy effects and transitions. That's what this camera is designed to do. If you really want to just sort of walk around and film yourself talking, you really are better off getting a GoPro. That's what it's not what it's designed to do either, but it does that very well. And this camera is not built to do that sort of thing. However, you can use it to record vlogs if you want to. And the way it works, because it has the 2 lenses, one on each side, and the camera software combines the 2 videos into one, there is a space at the edge of the camera that's invisible to the camera lens. So if you can get a microphone that fits right into that space there, right on the edge, and doesn't extend over the edge, it will also be invisible to the camera. So this works quite well with the Rode Wireless Go microphone. I can't show you that right now because I have it mounted on the GoPro, but this is the mounting system from Ulanzi for the Rode Wireless Go. It screws into the tripod mount, and then the microphone transmitter just clicks right over this thing right there. And that works relatively well, but there are 3 problems. The first is that the audio is not loud enough. Even with the Rode set to its highest level, the audio recorded by the camera is still really quiet. At least it seems quiet to me, and I have to boost it to 200% in my editing program. So it's like half the volume that I get from a GoPro, because the audio comes from the microphone, but the other part of audio is the internal recording software or codec or hardware, whatever is inside there that also records the video. It has an effect, and this does not record very loud audio, and I'm having trouble with that. So that's one problem. The other one is, you need an adapter in order to plug in any kind of external microphone. And to plug that in, you have to remove one of these doors, as I talked about in a different video. And it's fidgety to get to even open this door. And then in order to plug in the adapter, this door, which is held in place by a little plastic cord, you got to pull it completely out. It can't remain in place. So you have to take this off and put it somewhere else. And I guarantee you that you're going to lose this door eventually. Not right away, but eventually you're going to lose it unless you're very, very careful. It would be better if it was somehow hinged and then it could actually swing up and out of the way, but still remain attached to the camera. I'm assuming at Insta360, their engineers or their designers are working on a new design, because this door really is, it's not very good. So then you take your adapter and it just clicks into the USB-C port, and then this cord plugs into the Rode Wireless Go. So far, so good. The microphone is invisible, the adapter is invisible, but this cord in all of my videos, you might have noticed, you always see this black line in the screen. There's like this weird black distortion just sort of hovering in the air. And it's this cord because it is kind of free. And if you're holding the camera in a certain way, the cord, the weight of it makes it flop down and it extends beyond the edges of the camera and ends up being picked up by the camera lens. So you have to be really careful with that cord. Every time you plug in the microphone, you have to take a beat, stop for a minute and look at it and go, oh, it's sticking out over the edge. And you kind of twist the top to try and bring it back in line to make sure that it's hidden. So that's a little bit of an issue with that system. So in terms of form factor, I think those are, for now, those are all or my most significant thoughts. And now we get into probably my biggest problem with this camera. And it actually has nothing to do with the camera itself, and it has nothing to do with the Insta360 Studio editing app, which you put on your laptop. What I tend to use and what I prefer to use is a smartphone. And Insta360 has an editing app for the smartphone, and that's what I've been using mainly since I got the camera. And there are quite a few problems with this app. It needs a lot of development and a lot of improvement, and there are a lot of limitations. So if you are thinking about buying one of these cameras, and if you think you might be a little bit of a power user, because I think that's another caveat here. I'm not really technically a power user, but I am a power user in the sense that I shoot a lot of video. So file management is a big deal to me. I might go out shooting for a day and I might have 50 to 100 separate video clips that I have to manage. And normally the way this works is you take your camera and your phone and you link them via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and then you transfer all the video files wirelessly from the camera to the phone. That's what most people would do, because you might go out and you might shoot 3 clips or 4 clips, and then it makes sense just to connect them wirelessly and transfer the files. But if you have 50 long clips, it's too much to transfer wirelessly. It takes forever, and you end up using battery power the entire time, because the camera has to be on, running on battery power the entire time that it's doing the transfer. So you might be out there, I'm out there in the city shooting video, and I pop into a coffee shop and I figure I'll transfer some of the files, but then I can't really do it because by the time I'm done, I've drained the battery and then I can't use the camera anymore. So what I like to do, which is the same thing that I do with a GoPro, is take the memory card out of the camera, put the memory card into a card reader, plug the card reader into the phone, and then transfer all of those video clips from the memory card directly into the phone. And then I can just turn the camera off. But there are a number of issues with that. The biggest one by far, and I'm astonished that this is an issue, is that this app only works with the phone's internal memory. It cannot access the micro SD card. And that is a big problem for lots of people around the world. I've gone into the forums and I've seen people all over the place complaining about this, because a big problem with smartphones in general is there's just not enough memory. And if you're already struggling because you don't have enough free memory on your phone, how in the world are you going to download 15 gigabytes of video, and then once you're done, even if you could do that, now you have to edit the video and export your final video, and that could be another 3 or 4 gigabytes. And when you export that video file, it will only export to the phone's internal memory. So you could have a 1 terabyte micro SD card, a 500 gigabyte micro SD card. You know, I have a very large one in this phone, but it's completely useless to me because this app doesn't see it, isn't aware of it. If you copy all your video files to that SD card, the app won't find it. It isn't aware of it. It can't access the SD card. And when you export your video after you're done editing, you can't choose where it goes. It goes into your camera's automatic album. You know, it goes into your phone's photo album automatically, and you can't decide where it goes. You can't pick a folder. And that's related to my problems with it, in that once you do have all of your video clips copied over to your phone's internal memory, you can't organize them. You can't make folders. You can't organize, a hierarchical structure for your own video clips, which is what I like to do because, again, I'm a bit of a power user, I guess, and I like to create my own folders with the date, the subject, the camera that I used, and then I separate all the video clips in individual folders and keep them all nicely organized. You can't do that here. You can't make a folder, you can't move any of the video clips, you have no control over it at all. And for me, that is a really big problem. And related to that, I said, that you can't control the folders and the naming of the video files, and you can't control where the export goes when you edit a video. You also can't change the name of the video when you export it. So you've finished editing your video, it's all done, it's ready to go, now you want to export it and upload it to YouTube or wherever you're going to put it. The app just gives it its own name. You can't select a name for it, and it goes into your camera folder on your phone automatically. You can't control any of this. And then if later on you look at it and you want to try something new, try something different, and you make some changes in the editing and you re-export it, it automatically overwrites the first file. So you spend hours maybe editing this beautiful file, now you've exported it, and now you've got your video, you think it's safe, and now you're gonna kind of make some changes and export a second copy, you think, but it automatically replaces the first one that you already exported. It's just gone because they have the same name, the same file name, and there's no error message. Like, it doesn't even tell you, oh, that file name already exists. Do you want to overwrite it or replace it, or do you want to give it a new name? You have no options at all. You end up losing all of your old files, and you don't even get a warning that that's what's about to happen. And it did happen to me many times before I figured out what was going on. And to me, that's kind of crazy. So what you have to do, be very careful to do this, is if you edit one of your videos and then you export it, first thing you do is change the name of the file. So what I do is I go into the camera folder and I add a little extension on the end. So there's a very long file name that the phone creates with a date and a code and this and that. And then at the end of it, I put, export 1, save it, copy it to the micro SD card. So now I have 2 copies. Then when you re-edit the video and re-export it, it's not going to replace it. Now you'll get a brand new one, and I immediately change it to export 2, export 3. And then I can experiment as much as I want and make as many versions of the video as I want. And I'm confident that I'm not losing all of my previous work because I've renamed all the files. You have to be very careful to do that. And speaking of problems with file management, which is a big issue for me, another problem with this, the app that you use on your smartphone, and it could be the same on the laptop, the full studio app, I'm not entirely sure about that, is that the thumbnails give you almost no information. Like with a regular camera, somehow when you get a list of all the video clips, and you can look at the thumbnail images for each one, and each thumbnail image gives you an idea of which video clip it is. Somehow the program selects a video clip that represents the content of that video. It just sort of happens automatically. But this is a 360 video, and it's impossible for it to choose a thumbnail image that represents the content of that video, because there's just too much information, there's too much data. So here, for example, I'll hold this up to the GoPro. Maybe you can see some of the thumbnails there. There's no possibility to tell from the thumbnail which video is which. It's just impossible. So you're trying to work on a video project and you know you filmed all these different clips and you're trying to find the one you want. Good luck. You're looking, you can't tell from the thumbnail. The file names are no help at all. The file names are like the date and a code and a this and a that. They're long serial numbers basically. And of course the file names don't show up anyway. So you don't even see the file names on the screen. So you've got no thumbnail image, you've got no file name to work from, and there's no preview of any kind. You know, with most editing programs, a good one or even a bad one will still have some sort of a preview feature where you can, you know, long press on the thumbnail or something and it pops open a preview window and the video plays and you can go, oh, okay, that's the one I want. And you add it to your project or whatever. This app has no preview function either. So essentially, the only way you can tell which of these, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of clips are the ones you want is just by guessing. From the order, you have to remember the order in which you shot things, and you're thinking, okay, I took that one earlier in the day, so it must be down here in the bottom. And you can sort of guess which ones came before, which ones came after. And then you have to click on each one and open it, like fully open it in the editing program and let it play before you can finally figure out if it's even the video clip that you want. 90% of the time you chose wrong and you've got to close it, go to the next one, launch it in the full program, play it for a while. Oh, that's not the one either. And you got to keep doing that until you find the file that you want. And the only other information is the duration. You can see how long the video clip is, and that can help you out because you remember, oh, that was a really short one, so this 10-second clip, that's probably it. And this 3-minute clip, that's not the one I want. So you can see video clip duration, but that's it. That's the only information you have to go by, you know, when you're trying to choose, you know, which clips you want. Thumbnails don't help. No file names. There's no information at all, and that's really, really frustrating. I mentioned earlier that for me, the best and the most efficient way to transfer video from the camera to my phone is to remove the micro SD card, put it into a card reader, and plug that card reader into my phone, and then I can copy the video files myself manually, you know, copy and paste. However, there's a trick to that, and it can get extremely complicated. Again, most people probably would never have to deal with this. You'd have to be a little bit of a power user maybe to even want to go this far. But I only mention it to give, you know, if you're out there thinking, should I get a 360 camera? I just kind of want you to know what you're dealing with. And the way this works is that with a GoPro or something like that, you shoot some video, it saves the file, gives it a number, and there it is. You know, here, there's the video and there's the file. And then you only have one file that has a number on it. This is video 249. The next one is video 250. The next one is 251, 252. They're all numbered in order, and there's one video per file. You know, it's very, very simple and intuitive. But in a 360 camera, it's completely different because every video requires 3 separate files that have to be combined in order to produce that one video. So you've got 2 video files. One of them would be, you know, video file number 1, which is recorded by this lens. And then you've got a completely separate video file, which has been recorded by this lens. And then you've got a data file, which tells the software how to take those 2 videos and put them together. So you've got video 1 file, video 2 file, and then you've got this thing, I think it's called an LRV file. And those 3 files have to be present, and then the software combines them in order to show the video to you. So it's not as simple as just copying the video file. You know, on a GoPro, it's very easy. You just take the file and you copy it and you're done. But for a 360, if you're doing it yourself, you have to copy all 3 files, and you have to put them in different places. And if you're doing it yourself, the place where you have to put these files is buried deep in the phone's Android system. I kid you not, in order to do this, you have to bury down 10 layers deep before you finally get to the folder where you have to copy the video files. And there are 2 different folders down there. One folder is for the LRV files, and the other folder is for the video files. And then you have to copy them separately. So you have to go into your memory card, take all of your LRV files, select them all, copy them, and then go onto your phone and dive 10 layers deep until you get to the LRV folder, paste them there, go back to your memory card, get all of the video files, copy them, go back to your phone, dive down 10 layers until you finally get to the folder where you're supposed to copy your video files. And you have to do that because, as I said, you can't create your own folders. You can't go into the system and just create a new folder and say, you know, cafe visit video files and put them there, because the Insta360 program doesn't know it's there. It only sees its own internal folder structure. And just to give you an idea of how crazy this is, I wrote down the names of all the folders. And maybe if someone out there is actually doing this, this is what you have to do. So in order to copy the LRV files, you open up, you know, your file viewing software, your app on your phone, whatever it is you're using. You go to main storage. Underneath that, you'll find a folder called Android. Double click on, or you click on that. Then you click on the data folder, and underneath data, there's a long list of folders. You look for the one called com.arashvision.insta360 Akiko. Click on that. Inside that folder, look for a folder called Files. Click on that. Then you look for a folder called Insta360 One R, which is crazy because this is actually the One X2, and yet you're supposed to store your video files in the One R folder, which is a completely different camera. But anyway, that's what you have to do. You go to the One R folder. Inside the One R folder, there's the Gallery Original folder. Click on that, open it up, and inside Gallery Original, finally you get the One X2 folder. Click on that, and then you'll see 2 folders. One of them is the LRV folder, and one of them is the Camera 01 folder. And all the LRV files go in the LRV folder, and all of the video files, whether it's from Camera 1 or Camera 2, they all go into the Camera 01 folder. I don't know why. You'd think they would be separate into 2 different folders as well, but you put all of those into the same place. So that's what you're faced with when it comes to copying your own files from the memory card to your phone. It's really complicated. And yeah, I had to do a deep dive on the internet looking for that information, you know, just to figure out how to do it. I could go on, but I'll just talk a little bit about one more category of issues that I have with this whole system, and then I'll leave it there. And this has to do with the editing program itself. And this gets a bit complicated because in the One X2 editing, in the Insta360 app for Android, it turns out that there's 2 ways to edit video. You can just open each individual video clip on its own, and that's one editor. But it turns out there's another editor that I wasn't even aware of, buried, kind of hidden in this section called Stories. And if you go into Stories and you click on Create a Story, then it opens up an entirely different video editor. And this one is more sophisticated and more powerful. The Stories video editor allows you to insert multiple clips, and it allows you to do a lot of things that the normal editor doesn't let you do. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why they have two separate video editors. I didn't even know the Stories editor existed until last night. So I haven't really done a deep dive into that other video editor yet. I mean, it's not a full-featured editor. That's one thing, again, about 360 video. If you're out there thinking about getting into this world, you always end up editing your videos twice. You don't really have a choice, because as a 360 video, you have to edit it inside special 360 video editing software, export it, and then you have to take that video and import it into your regular editing program. And that's where you would add text and things like that, and, you know, fading in, fading out, all of your just normal editing that you do. You can't do that in the 360 editor. So you have to first edit it in the 360 program, then you've got to import it into your regular program. So now you're editing every single video twice. So in a way, you've doubled your workload and doubled the amount of time you take editing the video. So that's that's really something to think about if you get into a 360 video editing. But so far, I've only been using the main editing program. Like if you just open, if I just go to one of these video clips and then I click on it, it opens it up into an editing window. And this is the one I've been using. Up until last night, I thought it was the only one that was even available. And this is the one that I've been using. And it has some real quirks. It needs a lot of work and a lot of improvements. The biggest problem is that there is no way to save any of your edits as a separate project. So I mentioned with a 360 video, you're talking about infinite flexibility and variables. It's like you have 10 cameras shooting at the same time. So when you go in to edit the video, you're selecting, what camera movements you're using, where the camera is pointing, and you're inserting all these keyframes and all these edits. It can take a long time to get a video the way you want it to look. And now you export it, you've got your completed video. But now, what if you want to go back and make changes? Normally, in every other program I've ever used, your initial edit, all that work you did, you save it as a separate project and you give it a name, whatever, -01. And now you want to re-edit it in a new way. So you open up the video again, start fresh, do all new edits, and save it as project number 2. And that way you don't lose all the work you did. But in this program, for Insta360, can't be done. So no matter how long you've worked on that video, all the editing you've done, all of the changes you've made, if you want to go back into it and change anything, you have to destroy your original edits. It's gone. You clear it and start over again, and all that work is completely gone. It's just the craziest thing. I have no idea why it's put together that way. Yeah, a very strange thing. I assume in the future, they're going to change this. And I think in the future, they have to add the ability to save videos to the SD card. Otherwise, I don't know why they wouldn't have that. Someone in Insta360 has to be working on that, but we'll see. Another problem with the editing program, and I think this will be the last thing I talk about. I think I've talked about the technical issues long enough. This problem is with trimming the file. It's a very primitive system. What I can do is trim the beginning of the video file, and I can trim a little bit off the end, but it's a very unsophisticated system. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I find it very clunky and very awkward. Even if you're zoomed way out and then you see, here's your playhead, and you want to delete everything up until that point, it should be really easy to do. It's one of the easiest and the most common edits you can do in any editing program. But in this program, to do it, you click on the trim button and then you lose all of that. It just changes to a completely different view where everything gets scrunched into this tiny little window, and you've got to drag the handle and you're not sure how far to drag it, and I don't know, it's just a mess. It's really hard to do. And in the system, it also has what they call a jump cut. So in theory, you don't have to just trim the beginning and the end. You should be able to cut out something from the middle of the video, which makes sense. Again, that's one of the most basic edits you can do. And that's what this jump cut is supposed to do. And I've done the research and I've looked at all the tutorials, and you basically put your playhead where you want to make the first cut, split the video at that point. Click on jump cut, and then you're supposed to get a pair of scissors, like a little button with an icon of a pair of scissors. You click on the scissors and it cuts the video at that point, and you move to another spot, cut the video, and then you can delete that middle portion completely. And that's how you would edit the video clip. But nothing happens. I've got my playhead there. I click on jump cut, and nothing happens. I get no scissors, I get no buttons, I get no controls, nothing happens. That entire feature, it just doesn't exist, or there's a glitch in the program. I don't know what's going on. So in terms of editing the video, I have no controls at all. I can trim a little bit at the front and a little bit at the back, but I don't even bother doing that because it's so clunky and so primitive to work with. I can't delete anything from the middle. So all I can do is basically adjust all the camera movements, edit that. That's all I can do as an edit, export it, then I import it into my regular video editing program, and then I can finally cut and delete and cut out the parts that I don't want. But I can't do it inside the 360 app. So I will wind things up there. Like I said, all I really wanted to do was sort of talk a little bit about some of the things I've discovered about the program, some of the things that I really like about the camera, some of the things that could be improved, and mainly to give people an idea of some of the complexities involved in shooting and editing 360 video. From my experience, doing the things that I want to do with these videos, it's quite a bit more difficult and time consuming than I expected, to be honest. So there's a lot of unexpected work involved in doing this that I wasn't aware of. And if you're getting into 360 video, I think I wanted to give people a heads up about what you might be getting yourself into. You know, you see all these videos online. If you go into YouTube, you see so many of these collections of 360 video clips where people show you all the amazing things they've done with their 360 camera, and they make it look really easy. It's not as easy as they make it look. You can get those results, I suppose, but you have to know what you're doing, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take experience to get that kind of effect. It's not going to be, you don't get this out of the box and get those amazing videos that you see on YouTube, like in the marketing videos and things like that. So that's it. Still enjoying my red label. Something I noticed on the box, actually, which I didn't notice, is that this is a special Johnny Walker Red premium version. But what it has, what makes it premium, is it was stored in rye oaks. So it has a rye finish. And maybe that's why I like it so much, because rye whiskey is a typical Canadian whiskey. So maybe that's why I like the flavor so much. It's got a little bit of Scotch, a little bit of a rye flavor as well. So thank you to my mystery visitor. I'm enjoying it very much. And I'm enjoying my Davidoff instant coffee very much. That's it. I'm done. I'm through. I'm out. And I'll see you in the next video.